Yes, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones here for another edition of our Daily Drop podcast series. And AJ, we're going to talk a little bit of UNC NBA style topic today. I know we don't typically talk about NBA related things too often, but that is the beauty of the offseason, AJ. We can actually talk about different things besides just what the football and basketball team is doing and recruiting and all that jazz. So this is where we're able to kind of open it up a little bit and have some, as Bryant Balcom would say, have some fun today with today's topic. So I want to, and again, this might not be the right word for this topic in particular when it comes to Carolina fans, but we're here to kind of pose the question, just have an open discussion of something that is almost a bit of a surprising stat when you dive into it, or a surprising fact, I should say, not stat, but the question we're posing is, will Coby White be UNC's first NBA All-Star this century? Now, what do we mean by that in particular? What it means is Carolina has not produced an NBA All-Star since guys who were on the 1998 team. So it's Antoine Jamison and Vince Carter. Those are the last guys that Carolina produced as NBA All-Stars. And even diving into it, I mean, this is a Carolina a program that only has 7 players on NBA rosters to begin with. Cam Johnson, Coby White, Cole Anthony, Day'Ron Sharpe, Harrison Barnes, Harrison Ingram, who again didn't play a lot with the Spurs, so that one's more of a G League guy than anything, Pete Nansen and Tony Bradley. And AJ, when you dive into it deeper, the only guy who spent more than one season out of those 7 at Carolina is Harrison Barnes. Everybody else was either a transfer at Carolina, who came into Carolina as a transfer, maybe played more than one season, but didn't come to Carolina as a freshman. Or there were guys that came to Carolina as a freshman and only played 1 year, more of a one and done guy. So you pointed it out to me too, just to go off on a little bit of a sidebar real quick too. I didn't notice it during the season. Carolina doesn't, at basketball games, they used to have that video where they play. They don't play the video. Yeah. They don't play the video when it comes to the NBA guys anymore, which again, just kind of shows the state of where the program is in some respects when it comes to producing talent for the next level. So the only guy that I think you can make a case for out of those guys is Coby White. And I think Cam Johnson maybe a little bit, but I think he's a little bit further behind him. He had a good year again this year, averaged like over close to 19 points a game. But I think what Coby White did, particularly for the Bulls this past season, has even done for the last couple seasons, has been absolutely spectacular. But it feels like if there's anybody of those 7 I've named, he's the only guy that is maybe knocking on the door of potentially becoming an NBA All-Star this century. So it's a wild thing to break.
Especially if you look at the second half of the season he had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was really pouring some points in the so if his first half next year is like his second half was this year, he'll be in the All-Star game.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
He scored 20 or more 42 times, 30 or more 9 times. 44, I think, was his high. But it is a wild stat that Jamison and Carter, the 98 team, it's the last Carolina team to produce an NBA All-Star.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a statement. I think it's an indictment. They've had some really good players. I thought Ty Lawson was close a year or two. Raymond Felton was a solid pro. Harrison Barnes, as you noted, he's been a good. Danny Green didn't play in any All-Star games. He made the All-Defensive team 1 year. I think it was second.
Reggie Bullock had some good years, but
Reggie Bullock had some good years.
Wayne Ellington had some good years, but wasn't.
Rashad McCants, who had a completely different disposition. He had a very, very, very good friend of mine who was in my wedding, used to cover the Portland Trailblazers and got to know the GM there really well. And there was a period when I think McCants, I think the Timberwolves were the last team he was with. I can't remember specifically, but McCants was out of the league. And this GM told him, he said, Rashad McCants could score 20 points a night in the NBA, but not 1 point is worth what you have to deal with having him around.
Well, I think I can believe that when you see some of the stuff he's come out and said recently.
I mean, McCants could have been a very prolific scorer in the league, but there were a lot of other teammates didn't like. I'm not going to go down Rashad.
PJ Harrison too. I mean, PJ Harrison was a guy who, I think Roy called him the best natural born scorer he's ever had. And then the legal trouble, and he went to the league and actually had a couple of good years with the Hornets, but it all fizzled out for other reasons. So
they just haven't produced that. I mean, some of their best, think of some of their best players the players that fans embrace the most in their heartstrings, Luke May and Joel Berry, never played a minute in the NBA. Joel played in some exhibition games for the Lakers, and that was it. That's it. Right now, who knows if Armando even makes the league? I think he should, but who knows if he will? Isaiah Hicks made the league. People forget that. He played with the Knicks some, but Theo played a little bit. They haven't been producing NBA players, much less NBA All-Stars. I think it's a fascinating thing. You know, Roy coached one player in college who played an NBA All-Star game. That was Paul Pierce at Kansas.
God, it's just hard to believe.
It's an interesting thing, and I would love to know what people watching or listening, I'd like to know what they think about it. It's when Carolina rode the coattails of Worthy, Perkins, and Jordan, Worthy and Jordan in particular, for a long time. Those guys were studs, and they were always, all-star games. You always got North Carolina. I got a lot of guys from Carolina. They rode that hard for a while. They could still ride the Jordan coattails to a degree. They can't ride the Worthy and Perkins ones too much anymore. Most people that pay attention now don't remember all who Perkins was, unfortunately. But I know some listening to this do, but the average fan in Idaho has no clue. So they need that. You talk about cachet that is missing from Carolina basketball, the fact they've been to one Elite Eight since 2017, the fact you and I did a podcast the other day where they're not ranked in the preseason top 25. They don't appear to be a go-to destination, even when they had some money to spend here this past year. It doesn't feel the same. When they're on the road, not every seat is full. There were a lot of empties in Blacksburg, and the people in Blacksburg despise North Carolina. So there's a lot of, if you were to start stacking things, and we're not sitting here trying to beat up on Carolina. This is just a topic of conversation. This is a bar conversation without the booze. But there's a lot of things you can stack up there. And I think it would be enormous for North Carolina basketball if Coby White played in an all-star game. There's no doubt about it. It would be enormous for Carolina basketball if Drake Powell snuck into the first round and then play a lot of minutes next year somewhere in the league, or at least down the road. That was if Cam Johnson made an all-star game. Because Cam will tell you, he didn't become an NBA player at Pitt. He became one at Carolina. In fact, I talked to his dad in the spring after his junior year when Cam, he told me, we were talking about Cam moving forward and stuff. And he was going to come back for his last year at Carolina. And Gil told me, look, he's got to become an NBA player. And I thought, Cam Johnson, an NBA player? This is after his junior year, his first year at Carolina. I thought, okay. But man alive, by the following Christmas, he was an NBA player. He had grown, he got to 6'9", he could play, and he was a fantastic player. I would love to see him make an all-star game. He's a good guy. Coby was a great guy to cover. Cam was a great guy to cover. And those two guys were on a Luke May team when Luke was the fan favorite and Luke's overseas. So they need NBA players. They need NBA players. They need NBA All-Stars. They need a lot of that stuff to happen to start getting some of that Carolina cachet back, because it's missing right now.
Yeah, and of course it matters. I mean, this is a blue blood program, one of the most recognizable in the world when it comes to college sports. One that you just always say, just walk in the Smith Center and look up, you'll understand it and see the history and the expectations that come with not only playing for a university like this, but being a fan of a program like this. I mean, there's expectations set by the fans because of what they've done in the past. I mean, history sets a lot of that stuff. So I think it's worth talking again, like you said, not to bash the program or anything like that, but when you dig into the numbers and you look at the facts about it and you say, and you also factor in the fact that they're not even playing an NBA video. These play at every game. Got NBA guys, what they're doing and kind of who's in the NBA. I mean, play it anymore. And I think, again, that's
cool they have cool music with it, too.
Yeah. I mean, but again, it's Carolina we're talking about, man. Like, it's almost like, what are we talking about? Like, how is it that Carolina's only got 7 guys in the league, and the only one of those 7 guys, it was only one of those guys who came to Carolina as a freshman and stayed there more than 1 year. You know what I mean? It's just, that is a wild thing to kind of think in 2025 with the history of the program. But I also think it helps kind of illustrate things we've talked about a lot of the current state of where kind of the program's at, and this weird situation it kind of finds itself in where, compared to a lot of other programs, I mean, there's 90% of the programs around the country bite your hand off to have the last 10 years Carolina's had, be a number 1 seed multiple times, win a national title, all that. I mean, most programs across the country bite your hand off of that. But Carolina is a different pedestal of blue blood. And when you're looking at the fact that they're just not producing that kind of NBA talent, and haven't been doing it really for at least the high-end NBA talent for a while now, I think it's something worth talking about and, exploring a little bit, because it's surprising.
And, Cam and Coby both have played 6 years already in the league. Yeah. Cam's 30 years old.
I know. Yeah, he's 29 right now. Turns 36.
So, how much – Coby played 1 year at Carolina, and then he should play for a while, but they both have been in the league 6 years and haven't gotten an all-star game yet. So if they're going to play in them, they may just get one or two. Mm-hmm. There hasn't been Carter's the only consistent one. Jamison played in 2 all-star games. Carter's the only consistent one they've had in a long, long time. And Vince, it's interesting because when you talk about the best players in Carolina basketball history, if you talk about college alone, just college only, Vince doesn't rank super, super high. If you talk about the best players in general, overall, including everything, Vince ranks much, much higher because he was a much better pro than he was in college. It took him some time. I remember covering a game at UVA his sophomore season, played 10 minutes, and Dean, he was in doghouse. Dean sat him on the bench. You're not, you could be a great defensive player and you're not playing defense. You got to play within the framework of the team and all that kind of stuff. And I'll never forget that game. And I remember, well, I don't want to go too far with that. It was Vince in warmups. You could almost tell like he knew he wasn't going to play a whole lot. And it was an interesting thing. I was a green writer, green scribe, and talking to some of listening. I wasn't talking with. I was listening to some of the older guys. Look at Carter. Look at him faking it in the warmups and that kind of thing. I mean, Vince had some growing up to do, and that was really huge in him maturing and growing up, and ended up becoming the player that he became. If he would have gone pro after 1 year, I'm not sure he ever would have had the career that he did have, but he's the guy. Mm-hmm. Antoine was in 2, and then Vince was in a bunch more, and he's Hall of Famer and all that kind of stuff. But they need to produce more. They need to produce more, a lot of stuff. Now, I will say this: someone's going to comment in here. Well, look at all the guys Duke put in the NBA. Look at some of their all-stars, and they haven't even been. Carolina's been in 2 title games since Duke has been in a title game. That's true. That's true, but as much as what matters when they're in Chapel Hill and doesn't matter afterward, I think both matter, especially now when it's about making money. If you want guys to come to your school because they know they could turn it around in a year or 2 and become gazillionaires at the next level, you need to be able to sell that too. Because when Carolina was turning out those guys, they were selling that to high school recruits. You got to be able to sell that as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a blue blood big time, program, I think it's a no brainer. You should be producing more consistently producing more NBA talent than Carolina has in the last X amount of years. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I just think that's kind of a no brainer. So, yeah, let us know, guys. Let us know in the comments. Are you surprised? Did you know that was kind of the situation here, where you have to kind of go back to '98 to see guys that were kind of produced there and become NBA all-stars at Carolina? Why do you think that is? Just let us know. We want to hear from you guys. That's why we do these kind of fun off-season topics.
Is Coby the next one?
Yeah, is Coby potentially the next one?
Let's just narrow down to Coby or Cam. Or is there anybody in the program now you think can become an NBA?
Man, that'd be kind of fun. That'd be a prediction.
You never know. Maybe Henry Vasar just explodes and becomes an all-star. You never know.
Yeah, 100%. Even if he did, AJ.
You really don't know. How many people thought Donovan Mitchell would be the player he is? Or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. How many people thought those guys would be as good as they are?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And it's probably even harder to do. Like, because one of the things I was saying is 8 people in the league. The only guy that actually came to Carolina and stayed more than 1 year as a recruit out of high school was Harrison Barnes, that's in the league right now. It's probably that's probably going to be, continue that trend a little bit because of the portal and everything. It's so, you just don't see guys coming to schools as much anymore and staying there for more than 1 year. That just doesn't happen as much as it used to. I think
legislation will change that, to be honest with you. I think there'll be things that happen where the movement won't be as frequent as it is now. Maybe then, but still, they haven't had one since the '98 Tar Heels, and none of this stuff was a factor for 20 plus years of that time.
It's almost 30 years ago, isn't
it? Look, I've been doing this since November of '96. So my 30th year in the business starts at the end of July when we go to ACC kickoff. That makes me an old son of a, And it's almost been, I covered those guys.
It's crazy.
Like that's when I was green. I arrived and you had Carter and Jamison and Shammond Williams and Okalaja and those guys. Serge Zwicker was the starting center on the first Carolina team I covered. It was Dean's last team. I covered that team. So it doesn't seem like it was that long ago to me. I still remember the talking to those guys, and I've told you this story about Vince Carter was the first Carolina player I ever asked a question to. Was in the locker room at VMI after they won a game at VMI in December. And I'm like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And Vince kind of looked at me and laughed. And I went and talked to Vasco Evtimov was the second guy. Yeah. The only two I talked to, and I got the heck out of the locker room. I'm like, I don't know, man.
You want to be part of that.
I'm just dripping behind the ears.
Oh God, I can relate. Yeah, I had a little nerves when I first, got into this business too. It was it is a little bit more. You think it'd be easy just to raise your hand and ask a question or ask a player a question, but it's a little bit of nerves that come with it when you're a 21-year-old kid.
Everyone. It was pretty easy after that. I got acclimated very quickly because that was a great group of guys.
Yeah, 100%.
Shammond is still one of my favorite players I ever covered. He was awesome.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're just human beings. You got to kind of remind yourself that. They're put up on this pedestal because of their talents in sports, but at the end of the day, they're just a human being like us. So, yeah, you can get past it pretty quickly if you have that
maybe
mindset.
One of them will be coming out. Maybe one of these guys we cover will be coming out. You covered Coby.
Yeah, that was one of my.
Maybe you'll eventually have an all-star you covered.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that 100%, man. It's cool to say that, but yeah, hopefully. If you're a Carolina fan sitting here, you're probably like, yeah, if we produce more NBA guys that are on all-star teams, that probably means the program is going to, get better and better too if you're producing that kind of talent. I think there is somewhat of a correlation.
They used to say you have to have 3 pros, meaning NBA guys, to win a national title. I don't know if that's the case anymore. But the 17 team, Isaiah Hicks did play in the NBA. Justin Jackson played in the NBA. Tony Bradley's still in the NBA.
Theo Pinson.
Theo Pinson made the NBA. Bradley's the one who lasted the longest. Mm-hmm. Meeks didn't make it. Joel didn't make it. Yeah. I mean, it's just, the track record isn't. 2009 team at Hansborough was in the league for a while. Danny Green in the league forever. Wayne Ellington in the league for a while. Watson. Deion Thompson didn't. I don't think he was ever in the league. Remember Tyler Zeller was on that team?
Tyler Zeller. Ty Lawson had a great NBA career. Well, not a great NBA career, but a pretty dang good NBA career. Yeah. So yeah, maybe there is some truth in that. Maybe you do need at least 3 kind of NBA guys to at least give yourself a lot better of a chance.
Marvin Williams, Sean May, Raymond Felton, McCants. Yeah. Jawad Williams played in the NBA.
Marvin Williams. I mean,
David Noel played a year with the Bucks.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So I think for a Carolina perspective, yes, it is true. History will show the last 3 national title teams had at least 4 basically NBA players. So yeah, I guess from a Carolina perspective, yeah, the trend is true for having at least 3.
They blew a 15-point lead in the title game 3 years ago. And as of now, that Carolina team hasn't produced an NBA player yet.
No.
I think Caleb Love.
Yeah, I think he should at least. I think he'll at least be on NBA.
25 years ago, Armando would be in the league.
Yeah, no doubt. And Armando had a really good G League campaign. I'm almost surprised he didn't play more for the Grizzlies. I think he probably should have, but NBA's it's just a different game now too, AJ. Yeah, it really is game. Completely different game.
But it'll be interesting that team may not produce an NBA player.
I know. It's wild. They didn't end up winning the national title.
3 fringe guys for sure. And then, I don't even know if Brady's even interested now. I always kind of thought, man, you would think that there's a spot for a guy like him somewhere.
Yeah, a tall guy.
He's doing well. He's making good money where he is. There's just
something to continue to watch with this kind of NBA pipeline that Carolina's producing. I think I do think there's a correlation. If you start seeing Carolina produce more NBA talent like they have done in the past, then I think you will see Carolina as a program climbing back up maybe to closer to where it wants to be and has been before. So be interesting to see if that is a correlation there. Well, only time will tell, AJ. But I've been Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones again. Get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think about this topic about Coby White potentially being an NBA All-Star in the near future. Do you think he's got the potential to do that, or do you think maybe he's just not quite at that level? Again, we want to hear from you guys, and that's why we do these little off-season different topic drops to kind of get the people talking in the off season before the fun starts again. So appreciate everybody watching as always. You guys know what to do. I say it every episode. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell too. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks.